Hello, everybody. The three of us at this table have seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I hope you have as well, because we're about to start talking about a bunch of spoilers from that film, because that's what we do. This is Spoiler Mode. It's starting right now.
Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode, activated.
Hey, everybody. Brandon Jones. I have Ian Hank and Michael Damiani.
Hello.
And I think I'm curious to start the conversation of why are you at this table? Why are you here, Ian?
Huh? Wow.
Why Ant-Man and the Wasp of all things? Why are you? Why was this a movie this weekend that you were like, let's do it. I'm gonna go see that movie.
Real answer?
Yeah, for where?
We wanted a timely release of a spoiler mode.
Okay. So you're fiscally responsible, is what you're saying.
And I mean, I was gonna see it. I wanted to see it. Like, I don't know.
Well, why did you want to see it? Just because there's a lot of stuff going on in the Marvel universe. Are you completionist? Do you want to go?
I mean, I'm not going backwards. I'm not checking out Thor 1 and 2, which I never saw.
Point.
No. Thor 1.
But like, I'm seeing them all now. You know. But not because I enjoy them. Yeah. I don't know. They're very low stakes for me.
I love you, Ian, because you've told me about a lot of movies you've seen recently, action films you had very low expectations for, and you're like, they were fine.
Yeah,
so
it's fine.
I think that's
Upgrade
definitely the
was
attitude
not
to
good.
have.
Upgrade was bad. I had no stakes. Didn't like it.
But
it
lots of
didn't
good things about Upgrade. Maybe we'll do a spoiler.
It didn't
mode on that.
hurt my heart. I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know. I'm not gonna write about it on the internet.
How did your heart feel before and after Damiani, Ant-Man and the Wasp? What was your hype level?
Oh, I went into it with very moderate expectations in terms of scale and scope. I kind of expected it to be a very standalone story and a very fun. We got to have something after Infinity War that's a little bit more lighthearted and get back to what you're used to with Marvel.
Cleanser.
Yeah, that's their bread and butter. And I went in expecting that. I left I came out feeling that I think I enjoyed it more than the first one. I thought the first one was okay. I thought it was pretty good. Probably one of the weaker ones, but given the source material, they did a very good job with it. And I had a very good time with this too. And I mean, I wanted to see this because at this point, I am very invested in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I have now, I just went and saw all of it leading up to Infinity War. I wanted to see this, even knowing it had nothing to do technically with that plot line.
Or does it?
But no, you know me. I was like, you know what? This movie involves them trying to rescue Hope's mother and Hank Pym's wife, the original Wasp, Janet from the quantum realm. Yeah. I was like, oh, this, even though this is self-contained, this might have some good payoffs and stuff. So I did go in with a little bit of hope that we were.
You got me all hyped up about that. I wouldn't even thought about that.
I was like, some sleuthing might be going on during this watching.
I think we got some too. This movie. I was reading a few articles afterwards. This movie, low key, sets up some future stuff. I think that could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting you said you walked out of the theater happy because, I walked out really sad because the moment they leave you at.
Oh, I mean, I walked out of Infinity War happy, so.
Yeah. That they had to, the guts to do something like that. It's hey.
Yeah.
You know, they
I like
fulfilled their
finality
promise.
in media.
And we have nothing going on until Infinity War Part 2, right? This is our last
we got Captain Marvel is next.
Captain Marvel, yeah. Captain Marvel.
But that is
because they have to introduce her right before.
Yes, that will be an origin story, and it's set in the 90s.
Yeah. Right.
So it is before all this, and a cool thing. This is not spoiler related. Cool thing they announced today is for the entire film, Samuel L. Jackson and is it Clark Haig? Some other actor. I'm sorry, I got their name wrong.
Gregg?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Coulson.
Coulson. They will be completely digitally de-aged for the entire film.
Oh God!
I was like, whoa! I'm curious to see how well that goes because
it doesn't look good in Ant-Man versus the Wasp and the Wasp.
Oh, so you didn't like Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer?
I mean, it's just I notice it. If I'm noticing it, it wasn't done well.
And what about Robert Downey Jr. when they did in that one scene in one of the Iron Mans where he was younger?
That one was okay because it's revealed in the story to be a simulation.
Yeah,
okay.
You don't need to buy it in that one because
I really like Kurt Russell and Guardians too, man. That blew my mind.
They did a good. That one was pretty good.
I don't know what it is about Kurt, but
I was gonna bring that one up.
Was near flawless.
The overall lighting was less realistic. The whole surrounding background was so fanciful. Well, it was back on Earth too, but like the movie is so stylized that it's a little pops.
It's so unfair because you think about how many frames of animation it
it's
takes
crazy.
to pull that off,
Yeah.
and it's at the percentage for me, honestly, with realism at this point, Ian, of like 96% real.
Right.
But that 4% destroys all of it. You know, just that one moment.
The uncanny
where
valley.
like, you know, Hank is just looking at his daughter, and I'm like, like that one little eye flick or that one little head turn.
I
I'm
vastly
out.
prefer the like 80s method where you just don't show the face. Just have a younger actor and like it heightens the mystery.
Show them in very low light, or
Right.
at a distance.
Yeah. I mean, like it's also stupid, but like I don't know, it's safer.
Well, we didn't discuss this beforehand. I think there's a lot. You have notes. I have notes. Damiani has notes. Do we want to hit on major themes, or do we want to do something semi-chronologically?
I mean, like
Because we're talking about the family now, and I think that's definitely one kind
Yeah.
of backbone to this is, you know, Scott coming into this family and, you know, having Hank and Janet,
Yeah.
and their daughter, you know, her becoming the Wasp now, and as silly as I thought this movie was, I was surprised actually at those moments where she's reunited with her mom, where Hank's reunited with her, where they are discovering themselves, that they're making these advancements, where they're like, oh my goodness, this is actually going to happen. How excited they are when Scott comes to them with their vision. Like,
Yeah.
I bought all of that. What do you think? Like,
Yeah, the emotional moments hit, and they offset it all with
her
humor
Hope.
enough of the time that I think, you know, this again, like even within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Ant-Man is a low stakes kind of thing, written off in at least the first part of Infinity War by one line of dialogue where they say, "Oh yeah, he took the deal. He's on house arrest," and it's just like, sure, why not? You know, and whether or not Ghost like pulls him out of the quantum realm in Avengers 4 or what, we'll see. But yeah, I think that it's fun and lighthearted and lower stakes even than Thor Ragnarok. So it's kind of all just like fine.
There were a little bit of lore dumps. I felt that was kind of done clunkier than some previous Marvel films I've seen. Of like, wow, did you see that last big television show or film that happened? You know, and you're like, oh, I didn't. So thanks for filling me in because I didn't know. And I did like. I thought this guy was funny, Jimmy Woo, who's the agent who's chasing him the whole film.
Park, yeah.
And I kind of liked his little lore dump where he's like, "Well, it's really simple," and he tells his daughter,
very funny.
This is the deal specifically that he took." And so it's
He
kind of
starts
we don't
it as
actually
a
get to read the
metaphor.
Sokovia Accord, so it's actually kind of funny to hear the legal language.
Well, I love that he
they have to
started
deal
it
with.
as a metaphor, like aimed at a kid, and then just uses all the language, and then he's just like, "You're great with kids." He's like, "I'm a youth pastor on the weekend." That character is very funny.
Oh,
The Jimmy Woo character.
that was something. Speaking of like what Scott Lang did to get into like this mess and having to take this deal.
Yeah.
The one thing I was surprised about was the starting point for the relationship with him and Hank Pym and Hope.
Yeah.
That they are apparently furious and have cut off
Yeah.
all communication with him
Yeah.
because of what he did in Captain America: Civil War by going to help out Captain America using the Ant-Man suit. It got Hank Pym and Hope into trouble as well because he made the technology.
used the
He's in
tech,
trouble. I was like, wow, really? Like, it just shows how, like, one, it showed me how stupid the Sokovian Accords were. Like, okay, that was a disaster.
Yeah.
Like, a really good choice to not back those up. But also, like, think of everything they did in the first film, like him helping out and them selecting him to make this, like, you know, to protect their technology. And this one act, they couldn't even see that he was trying to do like the right thing again.
Well, I think
And
Hope in this movie was like, "You could have asked me."
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that payoff that like you don't know that until later on in the
Right.
film
Right.
where it's like, wow, this is really harsh. And then you find out him and Hope were like teamed up together. They were like a thing.
Yeah.
And he didn't even ask her for her help. Like that's what partners are supposed to do. Hey, would you get my back and come help me?
Yeah.
And just like left her behind, you know. And she's like, hey, if I'd come with you, you wouldn't have been caught. I was like, yeah, good line there.
Well, that actually was a weird thing in this because I mean I saw Ant-Man 1 and I saw Civil War, but I mean Thor Ragnarok I guess and Infinity War, and it was a few years ago, so I didn't remember them with
Black
a lot
Panther,
of I
lots
didn't
happened.
remember them with a lot of granularity, and so like it took me like half the movie to be like, okay, right, okay, he was at Civil War, so I guess they're mad at him for that for whatever reason. Okay, he was on that side. Okay, right. I should have just done my homework before going in. The one thing I don't remember is why his ex-wife's husband likes him so much. He's like always thrilled to see him.
It was kind of a bit in this film.
It's like
Yeah,
a bit.
that was
And, like,
I don't
yeah.
remember that at
But,
all.
like,
Yeah,
and-
I want to talk about that.
Well, the end of Ant-Man 1, they're in Cassie's room with Hank Pym's disciple guy. I forget his name, who took like the Wasp outfit or whatever outfit.
Yeah, I don't remember.
He was
him.
all like crazy, and he was holding Cassie hostage. And then he showed like the stepfather shows up as
Paxton.
well. And they were, it was like a very dangerous, intense situation there. And he just realized how out of his element he was.
Right.
And I think Scott saved all of them.
Right.
And maybe he explained like what he did. Like he basically could have like not just died, like worse than death fate, basically, to save them and stuff. And maybe he's like, wow, he did all the stuff he's been doing. He was actually doing it, one, because he's good-hearted, and he did it to save Cassie and him. So maybe he's like, I think it was a little weird, like the whole like
It was a
bit.
little Three's Company.
I
You
felt
know,
like it was like-
kind of felt like parents in a Nickelodeon cartoon. Like they were just really kind of like dopey dope dope. Like there was one shot that I thought was weird when they see him in the harbor when he pops up and there's like huge giant form and he's like trying to get at the boat. And like they're watching on TV and it was a cute shot because he panned down to Cassie and she's like, "Yeah, it's my dad." And they were like confused and I'm like, "It's him. It's not, why are you?"
They're
Like why were they having a
confused 'cause-
conversation about it or why were they just had this really like 80s teen comedy like
I think they were
parental
just like,
expression. It
is
was like
he out
weird
of the
science
house?
or something.
Like,
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because before that was like a running gag in this film. Like we should maybe, and we explained that he's under house arrest.
Yes.
He can't leave. And actually, in the very beginning of the movie, you see how the great lengths he's going to build a better relationship with his daughter Cassie, building this elaborate like maze with like or anthole tunnel system.
Yeah.
And at the end, they have this cool little like slide thing that goes through the house and everything. Is amazing.
Father of the Year, man.
And he breaks through the wall, and you're like, oh, and then like they're having a laugh and stuff, and then an alarm goes off, and like Cassie looks like terrified, and he's like, uh-oh, and you're like, is that an invader sign, or like, is there like that? And then you next scene, like the FBI and the police are just like rummaging through his house, and it's like, yeah, he like no BS
messing
lockdown,
around,
like
yeah.
he cannot leave, and yeah, they did the bits every now and then where he'd like sneak back home, like Ferris Bueller style. Hey, I was here the whole
Ferris Bueller,
time,
that's
and they're like, "Oh, we'll get you next time." So the family was always convinced, except for Cassie, that he's at home, he's a good person, he's not gonna. It was also Lethal Weapon 2 or 3 style, like 3. Oh man, like few days till retirement and stuff, but like few days till I get like out of here and stuff. So,
But like, I think the movie is aware of how silly it is.
oh yeah,
Like I don't
oh
think
yeah,
like
But
and like the husband the new husband, I think like it's an interesting dynamic that like the new husband to your ex-wife like just adores you. Like you don't see that a lot. So I don't know. I
And it's
gave
a
it a
huge
pass.
flip on the first movie. He was the Jimmy Woo of the first movie.
Oh,
he was
right,
the
right.
one.
yeah,
hunting
he
him
was the
down.
one trying.
Yeah.
So it was just like to me there's this moment in the first film when he leaves his daughter's birthday party where she's like, "I know you love your daughter. I know you deserve to see her. It's just the law. I don't want to mess with the law." Like there's just like haha and fun, but like there's a point where the fun has to stop. And like didn't really felt that kind of teeth this round. Like Ghost was kind of like, we can get to her in a second, but like when she was introduced, it wasn't. I didn't really feel necessarily like a threat from her. It was like, oh, she's kind of desperate, so like I could kind of be on her side as well.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like, oh, Jimmy Woo's just kind of joking around. It's not that big of a deal. And then like, oh, his wife and her new guy are like cool with him. So just like and
I mean-
Walter Goggins is kind of funny. So like
yeah.
there just wasn't. I wasn't afraid of anybody
Also,
in this movie.
I love.
Or afraid for Scott. I wasn't afraid
Yeah,
for Scott a lot.
I love
guess
Walton
that's what I was missing.
Goggins. This is the first time I realized that his first name is Walton.
Walton Goggins.
I thought it,
So
I
this
thought it was
is,
Walter Goggins for years.
Oh wow.
Sonny Birch.
Yeah, I love that guy.
But this guy, who I imagine the director was just like, just go. I'm not going to give you any characterization whatsoever.
just do Justified. Just go.
Just chew with those teeth.
But yeah, there were no stakes
Well,
in this movie. But it's like whatever.
I was
Fine.
actually gonna say that I think there was one. I mean,
Janet was a huge
Yeah,
stake.
Janet
yeah,
was
yeah,
one, but like
yeah,
I
yeah.
also would say Scott endangering his relationship with Cassie because he had to make a hard choice of help Hank, help Janet out, but also at the same time he has that speech with her where he's like, I can't go help them at one point. We'll get to why that happens later. And his daughter basically he goes, why? And he's like, I can't hurt you again. Like I cannot do, like we've rebuilt a relationship. I've proven myself to be a good father. If I go do this, I get put in jail, like I damage you basically. So it's like choosing between a kid and your daughter and you're like good friends. And I thought, even though it was like lighthearted, like the whole like cat and mouse chase thing going on there, I did feel like at the same time, like, man, if he just gets caught once, like that's it with him and his daughter. Like she's still gonna love him. Like he goes like real jail, blah blah blah. I was like, I felt like there was that risk for like Scott. I was like, he could break out or something, whatever. But like it might be a situation where like it is now harder for him to have what he really wants out of life, which is a good relationship with his daughter.
Yeah. I liked Ghost and the Lawrence Fishburne character,
Dr. Foster.
Dr.
Yeah.
Foster. I liked that dynamic where he's sort of like a surrogate father for her. She's in pain. Also, I like that actor, and she just seems really cool in this movie. Her powers are neat. The fact that it's like a thing that happened to her, and like Shield, like the good guys, like turned her into this killing machine. You know.
Yeah.
Her father played by Michael Cerveris, the original Tommy on Broadway.
Oh, weird.
And he's been in a bunch of other weird stuff.
Yeah, and back to the daughter thing, like, I mean, I took notes here, but, like, what's cool about it is things that this movie sets up. I was reading about it, and, like, Cassie Lang in the comics plays a character in Young Avengers called Stature, who uses the Hank Pym technology to get super big, and is sort of like a... the Young Avengers happens when the Avengers aren't around to help, so she's one of them, and like she says in this, and that's why I like their relationship with this, because she's like, I want to be like you, I want to be a hero, I want to help people, so that's cool. And then Ghost is on basically Marvel's Suicide Squad, which is called the Thunderbolts, also a version of Goliath, I guess, which is what Lawrence Fishburne's codename was. Yeah, so like they set up all this stuff. And I just saw something right before we started shooting that there's another thing called Agents of Atlas, which Jimmy Woo is apparently on. I don't know anything about that.
Atlas is the prison from the Spider-Man demo, right? Is that what they crack open?
It's like a S.H.I.E.L.D. analog. It's like a replacement for S.H.I.E.L.D. or something. Oh. So like they could be shadowing that too, foreshadowing. Also, Also, fun fact about Janet. Apparently, she was the second longest standing leader of the Avengers initially in the comics.
Oh.
Second only to Captain America. And also apparently she's the first person to say like I need to avenge someone. So like kind of the title of Avengers comes from her. Like her husband gets killed and then like Hank Pym is like, well, you can be my number 2. Like I need help, you know. So yeah, interesting. Like she's like old school like.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Nice.
And I like that vibe. I like bringing in another actor. Like, I mean, we should probably touch on this. I mean, that is the plot of the movie. Like, Ant-Man and the Wasp having the double meaning of, rescuing the original Wasp, but teaming up Scott and Hope for the first time. I think another things that I was a little bit underwhelmed with this movie was just the simplicity of that heist. That there were a lot of different operations that were conducted in the first Ant-Man movie where like this was just, we just have to finish building this thing, then get in there. And it was just a lot of like whoops, like he's got that item now, so now we got to chase that guy.
Yeah.
It seemed kind of more like an episode of Miami Vice than like a movie, there's just a lot of like, oh, I could only do that thing if that object wasn't far away from me, as opposed to like, whoa, I didn't know that about your character, or wow, like, that's an interesting, bit of lore to drop.
I mean, it is a Gaiden, and it's a sequel.
Right.
So like, yeah, character stuff in sequels, right, is usually like more revelatory than, it's just these little moments where it's, like usually you do get that moment where it's like, whoa, shocking, this didn't really have that.
So the Janet, the original Wasp moments, like we had a few, the beginning.
When she shows up, when he goes into the quantum realm and is going like crazy.
Yeah.
Michael Douglas, I mean. And she, like this shadowy figure emerges at the end of the hallway. I was like, who's this badass? Like she looked so cool. And it's, of course, the original Wasp, who's been, like, living in the quantum realm for 30 years.
Right. Which made me wonder. That was, like, where my head was going when I was driving home. I'm like, oh, how did she get out of that? If, like, Michael Douglas, couldn't handle it, and then his brain took over and kind of, like, placed him in this weird pseudo-memory, where he's home, but he's not, and he knows people there, but they're all kind of attacking him. Like, did that happen to her? When she was first stuck there, how long did it take for her to, like, paddle over to that, like, barrier, like, going beyond the quantum realm into just big, like, Pepperlands, like, the big, like, Rainbow Road. And then... Like, is she able to do that back and forth? Is that kind of, like, what's her resting place? Where does she live in this environment?
Well, and, like, how did she not go completely insane? Like, even if left on this plane of reality, if you're alone for 30 years, you're gonna, that's hard on the human mind.
So she did randomly have superpowers, but I was kind of into it. You know, I was.
I mean, to me, it's like she had to adapt to survive, and you know,
for a long
for
time.
30 years, and like she says like it's about evolution, it's about adaptation. Yeah, so I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah. So their explanation in the quantum realm was that she channeled like quantum energy essentially, and was able to like harvest it. That was also like that's what you saw later on, like Scott Lang trying to harvest like the healing properties or whatever they called it, healing energy. But I have a
for Ghost.
We don't know. Yeah, we don't know if Janet on her own came to like you know, like Hank, very intelligent, like probably one of the smartest people on the planet.
The movie leads me to believe that she's smarter than Hank and Dr. whatever.
Dr. Foster.
Dr. Foster.
Yeah, probably smarter than anyone we've met in like the Marvel like universe. So either she was able to figure it out by observing stuff, but there's a part where she starts explaining like some of the stuff in the quantum realm when they're about to. There's a part where they're going to go back in basically, and she's explaining some of the rules. And it felt I got like this gut feeling that maybe she met somebody else in there or something, or encountered something else in there that might have taught her taught her the ropes of how to get around in the quantum realm, because she's like this like Marshfield or whatever type place or whatever, and like when you cross this barrier you're gonna start losing your mind, but like you just gotta like, you know, just keep your focus and stuff. Like she just like knew everything. I was like, experience, but also how did you overcome that in the first place? That's a lot of, not just the mental, like the psychological thing you have to go through at the first part.
Well, I mean, there's definitely a lot of scientific suspension of disbelief one has to do when watching this movie.
Oh, sure.
Which, you know, obviously. But yeah, like her being able to send them a signal of like, here I am without any technology. I'm just like, how are you doing this? But it's like, cool, whatever. Yeah.
And Paul Rudd was Michelle Pfeiffer for a little bit. That was an interesting scene.
That was a good scene.
That's funny.
I thought that scene went on a little bit.
It was just a little long.
Those little moments,
yeah.
those little like moments of him, you know, like I love you so much. Like like 5 of those, and I was like, jokes just kind of over by the end of that scene. But that was interesting.
Yeah, it was a little interesting because like in the last few months I watched Altered Carbon, and like that's kind of a trope they do, is when like you can switch bodies basically with your mind. When you get implanted into one, and there's like scenes or like an emotional reunion with like a daughter, and she's like in an old man's body and stuff like that, and like it's just normal to people in that future world, but people change bodies all the time. It's just like once you realize it's them, you just like ignore all that. So I was like very well exposed to like a reality depicted like that. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is a very like, I've seen this moment before, and yeah, it went on just a little too long.
Because it was like, it was either funny or poignant, and like it couldn't be both in my brain at the same time for some reason. Like, because I was really actually into that. Like, I actually thought Michael Douglas did a really good job when he finally sees Michelle Pfeiffer, given that like these are two actors who probably know each other, you know, just through life.
I was trying to think
who
if they've
were
done
on a
something
green
before.
screen stage wearing big uncomfortable outfits, and it's like, all right, 30 years go, you know, just like, all right, I have to, you know, at my age, like muster this and like get into this moment. And like I thought they did a really good job. I thought Evangeline Lilly did a great job when Michelle Pfeiffer got out of the ship.
Yeah.
And so to have this comedic moment to be like, I was like, oh, when it first happened, I was like, oh, what an interesting way to like set up that scene. Then after like 5 minutes, I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of, I'm ready for it to get back to me actually being emotionally wrapped up in this instead of just laughing at it.
It was funny when they do pull Janet out at the end, and the ship just like full crashes, and then Janet comes out and has the reunion with Evangeline Lilly for 100 years. And like the whole time I'm just like, is Hank dead? Like, what's happening? Like if Hank is dead, this is like stupid. And then he pulls out and he's like, nobody worry about me. I'm like, okay, good. I was like, all right. Yeah. But yeah, Ghost.
Moment.
Super cool.
So this heist in general, just this entire operation to get this piece and put this, you know, device together and the tech. It seemed like the only real technical hurdle they had was her communicating through Scott to get that last bit of code typed in.
Yeah.
Whereas everything else was just kind of like a crime movie. You know, it was just like...
Yeah, like stealing for like a mob boss, essentially. It was like, I've got connections and stuff. And it's like, yeah, basically it's like all in service of, we just got to open that gate one more time so like quantum entanglement works so that the... Michelle Pfeiffer can connect with Paul Rudd and like give us the coordinates and stuff, and everything else about that I don't know, like the crime boss guy, I forget his name, and his like goons and stuff, like
Sonny Birch.
the whole truth serum thing though. Like I feel like they did.
Which brings us to
Yeah.
Is it Luis or Luis? Was it Luis?
Michael Pena's
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
He's very funny. I thought he was a highlight.
That was really good. He goes, "Yo, it's like truth serum," and he goes, "There's no such thing as truth serum."
Well, I can't believe I
When
didn't.
he's on the truth serum, it's so
I can't
funny.
believe I didn't walk right into that scene where I was like, "Oh, truth serum! What an interesting gag to do for them to be arguing over it." And then the scene starts where they've already, gotten in him, and they're like, "Wait, get to the point." His friends are in the background, like, "I don't think you realize what you've done."
Yeah.
And it was
He's
like,
gonna
"Oh, of
go.
course!" Like them looking ahead, like, how can we double down on his character?
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. Because I forgot they did that in the first one, like him telling a story
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
them,
Well,
them
I-
drunk historying
I
it.
thought the opening was really clunky in the beginning, where it was just like, and previously on Ant-Man, and we saw like a huge scene from the first Ant-Man. We've already seen this, and
Wait,
then
which part?
it was just very presentational when like Michael Douglas is like, "I think we can get your mother out," and they're like, "Yeah," and then the Marvel logo
Before the
starts.
Marvel
was
crawl.
that from the first movie?
Most of it,
A lot
most
of
of that
it
flashback
was.
where she goes through the rocket and the rocket crashes, and he's like, "No, that's the story he tells."
But
me."
I think
Oh.
I think
In
he
the
only.
first one.
I
So the
forgot
thing,
about
yeah,
that.
the only thing you know is I think he only.
which is why I was
told-
probably in there.
Yeah,
He only
yeah.
told
But for me,
Scott
it was
that
weird.
story. I think.
Yeah.
Hope. I think it's not like Hope was being filled in on it as well. And like,
Okay.
hey, but go.
He tells Hope in front of Scott.
Okay,
That's when
yeah.
she's finally like, "Just tell me what happened," and he's like,
But it's like, but now I think we actually get her because
Yeah.
like I found her something. It's like, ooh.
Probably, yeah. They were just like, it's been a few years.
Yeah.
because they showed the Wasp in the
And
first
it's
movie. That's what I
Ant-Man.
thought was so cool, because you see her, especially when she cables herself
Oh,
like to
yeah,
the
yeah.
rocket and flies through. It was like, "Oh, the Wasp, awesome!" Like I didn't think we were going to see her in that first film, but
I mean, this movie.
so I was looking
Even-
forward
well-
to Michael Pena doing that recap of the first movie, like
Oh,
to maybe one of his
That
friends.
would have been.
So I did, why couldn't we have gotten Michael Douglas? What a lost opportunity to have Michael Douglas like
Oh,
talk
yeah,
like
yeah,
him.
yeah,
Look,
yeah.
man,
Do it for a
you
third
should have brought it in
time.
my house. Like,
Yeah.
I would've loved
But I mean, yeah, this movie is effectively a MacGuffin movie with 3 MacGuffins. It's first the part they need to make the machine run.
Right.
Then they get that, but then the lab gets stolen with the part in it by Ghost, and then they have to go get that. And then the whole movie is trying to get Janet, and then the lab keeps getting stolen. And
portal
like
lab.
He
it's
steals
not-
the lab. He steals Fishburne's lab at one
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
and then he steals it back. It's just like
It's
got a little
not.
exhausting.
It's not like a great mechanism for storytelling, but it's like, again, I think it's such a low stakes story. Also, like there was some amongst the people that I saw it with, they were like, okay, so this takes place at the exact same time as Avengers, Infinity War. So like, how come we're not seeing stories on the news about New York getting attacked by aliens? How come in that we didn't see like, oh, Ant-Man is huge in San Francisco? And I'm like, because A, New York gets attacked by aliens all the goddamn time.
right.
Like to the point where like the kids at the end of Black Panther see what they think is an alien spaceship, say, oh, is that one of those, whatever the aliens are called? Kree,
yeah.
I think. Yeah, is that a Chitauri ship? Like they don't care. It's just like every day, It's like whatever now. This is the reality we live in. So like I don't think either of the things are like newsworthy. Also, they don't like Avengers doesn't care about Ant-Man. Like, so I think I buy that they take place at the same time. But like it's a self-contained story where like really besides Ant-Man getting big, none of it is newsworthy. It's just some car chases.
Yeah,
It's just a
the building took
personal-
out the wharf. I actually thought,
Yeah.
especially at the end, I thought San Francisco was very well represented. It was
Yeah.
it was kind of fun at the end when he was running towards the wharf. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, the wharf!"
It's like, oh, man, for
But I also feel
convention.
like they need to have these types of stories because
yeah.
everything can't always be
course.
the Avengers. And as they
That's
like,
what I mean, is
And,
like,
and
it's
in
good.
previous MCU films, they've been like, why aren't you getting the Avengers to do something like it's a bit above their level and stuff like.
like
the-
every episode
yeah.
of the Netflix series.
Individual stuff like sometimes you'll have to like, hey, you're in San Francisco, that's your place to protect and stuff like.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Like, oh, you got a city protector, you got like a region to protect. Do your job. Like we trust you to do this. And I think, Ant-Man getting big is like, oh yeah, he's just doing his job over there. Like he'll, someone will contact us if it's really that big of a deal and stuff like that.
that big
Yeah.
of a deal.
Man.
But yeah, I mean, plot-wise, it's not, amazing work, but I think it's so low stakes and it's played for lulz that I liked it. I had fun.
But Damiani speaks to kind of where we're at and like in the timeline and having this and then Captain Marvel leading up to Infinity War. I wonder if a lot of people going into Infinity War and be like, "Oh, Ant-Man's this. Okay, well,
Infinity War
I'll go
2?
see Ant-Man Infinity War
Yeah,
Part 2."
yeah.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, I'll go see Ant-Man and the Wasp because I've like totally missed out on both those movies." And I wonder if you necessarily need to see Ant-Man. I recommend it because I think it's funny, but like
Ant-Man 1, you mean?
Yeah, with having
Ant-Man
Ant-Man
1.
2, with the here's what happened in Ant-Man 1. I just thought that was so heavy-handed at the beginning. It made me wonder, like, oh, I wonder if a lot of people didn't see Ant-Man.
See, that's
or much less than what they were
that's
expecting.
my
And I
view,
wonder
Jones.
if their
Yeah.
expectations to have people go back and watch both before Infinity War Part 2 is just too much to ask.
That-
so let's just put a
yeah.
little thing in the beginning to like totally bring
I
you
think
up to
you're
speed.
probably right. Which still, though, like, I had seen Ant-Man and Civil War, and I was still kind of like, wait, why are they acting this way? Like, why do they hate each other? What? Okay, whatever.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And we're left in a very interesting place. What do you think? You had some interesting theories after Infinity War, Damiani, but now, you know, so not only do we think that, you know, the quantum realm could play into whatever solution they try to put into place to fix, you know, what Thanos did, but now we've lost everybody
see,
but
like,
Scott, and Scott is trapped.
Face too. It's
Yeah,
like weird.
I mean,
In
I
the
think that
quantum
there's several important.
Did he really?
It looked to me that the clouds behind Scott kind of changed into Thanos' face for a second, or someone's face, like
Whoa.
eyes and stuff, just for a second. Like when things started going
Crazy.
weird. Maybe I'm crazy.
Maybe we'll see.
There seemed to be a shift in the quantum realm from my observation.
So I actually don't think. I mean, don't know, but there's a lot of interesting stuff here. But like the simplest stuff to start with is that I think Ant-Man and Wasp was a necessary film because I think, yeah, as you pointed out, Jones, the research discoveries and being able to go into the quantum realm now, I think is going to be excuse me. I think it's played an instrumental role in the next Avengers film. Like that's my personal belief. If you pay attention to Michelle Pfeiffer's instructions to Paul Rudd before he goes in at the very end in that scene, she mentions some very specific stuff, including don't get sucked into a time vortex.
right.
So I was like, that's a really odd thing to just like throw out there. You said like you're saying that I was like, okay, so you're opening the thing that like you'll get lost and we can't get you. I was like, all right. Basically, they're saying that the quantum realm is going to let you to be able to come out in different points in time. I was like, okay, there we go. That's the second thing I was waiting to hear about. And then 3, Paul Rudd is now stuck in there because of the like. When it was hilarious in the theater, like everyone's like, "Oh, what's the credit scene gonna be? What's the mid-credit scene gonna be?" I'm like, "Are you prepared to be sad?" Like, do you know it? I'm like, it can't be anything else other than like what's about to happen.
It has to
be. Like you know what's happening. Like the after effects of that is coming up, and like in that, and yeah, like him being in there with both Hank and Hope and Janet, like. Bye, you're all gone. See you later. It's like, and he's stuck in there. It's like, now we have to figure out, like, he has a mechanism in there, and he's now stuck in the quantum realm. What does that mean? Like, is he gonna find a way out on his own? Is someone gonna intervene?
I think Ghost will get him.
Yeah, well, like someone like Ghost
Like,
intervene.
and Dr.
Will
Foster.
will the person that maybe Janet met while in there to help show her the ropes, team up with him or something? Like, who knows? There's a lot of interesting questions it raises, but it opens up some possibilities to quantum realm stuff. Not like it doesn't behave the same as like the normal universe. So maybe it's immune to Thanos' stuff or whatever, or like Thanos' stuff doesn't apply there. Or maybe is that time illusion was maybe he can come out at different points in time now once he learns how to like use that or something. And being able to go through time might be useful for solving what happened.
That's the thing about Avengers 4 that I'm not sure what they're going to do, because, like, the comic books have dealt with it in various ways, this kind of story stuff, and, like, it's so complicated and heady to explain that I don't know how they would do it in a way that, like, stuff about, like, how the Soul Stone, like, those people aren't gone, they're just kind of, like, maybe, like, on hold, like Ghostbusters continuum style, like in the Soul Stone itself, and like it can just puke them back out, like weird stuff that's like hard to explain and hard to make feel satisfactory.
Right.
But yeah, I think that him being in the quantum realm is very cool and telling. And like the weird thing is like Doctor Strange like foresaw probably all of this stuff. And like it's all part of it, and like I wouldn't be surprised if Janet did get outside influence, if it was from Doctor Strange or her future self or future Scott. I wonder. I think she could have just figured it out
Yeah.
by being trapped for 30 years. But
I mean, yeah, I like the line from Doctor Strange. Like maybe it was they needed to give Thanos the stones faster to snap at the certain time, because maybe if he did it any later, maybe Scott wouldn't have been trapped in the quantum realm. They would have brought him back out, and maybe he would have vanished with them. Like maybe the quantum realm is immune to it. Yeah.
The timing, I heard some people talking like afterwards, like the timing was pretty good, and I'm like, maybe that was on purpose.
Yeah, like that could possibly be that. Like it could be nothing. It could just be like that's
coincidence.
Yeah, movie stuff.
Yeah.
I also do believe, even like they dropped a hint about like something involving time, I don't believe it'll be as simple as just like, hey, we're gonna travel back. I'm gonna warn everybody.
No.
It will not be that. Even if it does involve some kind of time element, there will still be consequences to even that. I don't think there's any easy way out of what happened at the end of Infinity War. They might have a mechanism now to resolve it, but there's still going to be even more. There will still be consequences.
Well, Chris
that can't be
Hemsworth
undone.
or various people have said vague things like, well, Avengers 4 is even more shocking than 3. Like, things get more intense, not less intense. And I mean, like, clearly they have to undo it in some way. My guess, if one way to make it stick but undo it is, and I think I said this earlier before, but like, pull a Rick and Morty where it's just like, well, that universe is fucked. Let's try this universe. Just tell them, you know, like.
Oh yeah, they switch universes.
Yeah, like they go and tell that Doctor Strange, like, hey, we biffed it. So they're all dead. What have you got?
Be funny, like Scott Lang Back to the Future, where it's just him. He's got to go warn everybody in like his Ant-Man suit.
Man, that'd be crazy.
I think Ant-Man and Wasp is the mid-credit scene is the first big clue that we'll get. The other big piece to the part of the puzzle will be probably in Captain Marvel.
Of course.
Because we need to know what happens with that and why is she just not around and stuff like that and what's going on.
She's in space fighting the Skrull. So.
That's true. Also, like, why didn't she, like, show up sooner or something? Like, you know, like, there's basically got to be some reason why, like, you know, we need some answers from that as well. And once those two come together, I think those will be two very key, very important parts to what will go down in Avengers 4. Is that the quantum realm stuff with Scott Lang, and then Captain Marvel is the other big part of the mystery.
The end credits bit, which is largely played for laughs, is just an ant playing the drums. But the way it starts, where the TV is just on emergency broadcast and like everything is silent, that's I want to see a movie like it's kind of a bummer that this movie took place during Infinity War 1,
right?
And not after, and the shows are chickening out of like doing something during this period, because like that's a show I would want to see, like Leftovers style, just like, because Leftovers was 2%, this is 50%. Like the planet is decimated, and I want to see a thing that takes place in that reality, even if they undo it. Like it would be so crazy.
I mean, I think you're
Like
going to get a little bit of that in Avengers 4.
I think so, too.
Like,
Yeah, I think
feel
for
like
sure.
the media thing is going to deal with that fallout.
Yeah.
You were saying it's going to be more intense. Like, look what the world's having to do to survive now and cope with that.
If Spider-Man Far From Home takes place minutes after Avengers 4, like they say it does, like, who knows, man? Things are different.
Crazy times.
And was that Paxton and Maggie's house, his ex-wife? Was that their house that he was staying at?
Who?
That Scott was staying at, what he was supposed to be at, that he kept running home to.
No,
the
that
place
was
where
his
the
own
ants
house.
live, and that's his own house.
Yeah,
okay.
they came over a couple of times.
Yeah.
So the ant was at Scott's house, where no one should have been anyway, pretty much. So
okay.
It's unclear if his...
Because I'm like, what happened to...
It's unclear if Cassie's gone, his ex-wife, the new husband. It's unclear if Michael Pena's character is gone, or his other ex-con security people, who I thought were pretty funny.
I love them. I love that one of the guys... What are their names? Dave and Kurt. I think it is Kurt, who was in the Dark Knight. He was one of Joker's like accomplices.
Oh.
He's a guy that Two-Face tries to interrogate, and Batman's like, he's crazy. You're not gonna get solid info out of him, Harvey.
Right.
He's
That was
nuts.
him? Oh,
He's
yeah.
nuts.
And he always just plays these really
like,
you
out
know
there.
spooky characters. So it's funny. It's great to see him do comedic roles. I like that they showed them like being interviewed by the news at the
Baba
end. Like,
Yaga.
Baba
That was so good.
so everything, yeah, Baba Yaga.
Yeah, when Ghost finally shows up.
So yeah, just everybody won in this movie. I guess that's like I think your conversation's wrapping up. I think it's time for us to put a score on this thing.
I mean, everybody won until everybody lost. You know,
Yeah, I
Marvel-
guess it just wasn't really. To me, it was the first film. I think focused really on Scott. Like he was definitely the protagonist, and I think this one he kind of had to share with Hank and Hope, and because of that, yeah, there weren't a lot of scenes that we got with these characters. It was just kind of like really trying to heavily like dump on a couple specific moments, like when he first reunites with her, when she reunites with Hope. But at the same time, I can't remember if Hope and Cassie ever got an introduction. Just kind of seems like
Yeah.
in this
Was
movie
it-
or in the
Oh, in this
was
movie.
there ever that scene where it was like, "Hi, Cassie, I'm Hope," and like, "Oh, hi,
Like an actual
you're
proper
gonna be my
introduction.
other mom now," kinda.
Didn't they
like,
meet in the, did they meet in the first movie?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
And then you see them at the end, and
Don't
it's
think
it's like
they
a funny
do in
gag
the
with the
first
laptop
movie.
and all the cars, but like I just didn't really get any kind of relationship between Cassie and Hope, and there's just a lot of like Scott's life now that I feel is just kind of taken for granted in the narrative. It's just like, oh yeah, they're together, I guess. I don't know.
I mean,
it was
think-
like seemed like they were never really in a good place.
To me,
Like
to
they kind
me
of
that-
hinted at hooking up again, but in the end they're like, yeah, they're together. Whatever.
That speaks to what Marvel is doing now, which I am hugely in favor of. All killer, no filler. Like, I don't care. I don't need to see them meet. I don't need to hear them say, we're boyfriend and girlfriend now. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, it wastes time that we don't have and shouldn't be wasting.
I think it is.
Yeah, I did feel a lot of wasted
I feel
time.
it's
in this.
also
Good
very
point.
Yeah.
heavily implied throughout the movie that the scenes between the interactions with Lang and his daughter Cassie, that he wants, like the scene where like I want a partner and she thinks it's gonna, oh, you mean me? Like, no, it's actually
I meant her, yeah.
And like, so his daughter already gets it. Like, oh, my dad loves me a lot and like does all this for me. If he thinks more of her, then she's really like she's gonna be a really great person.
Yeah.
And I see how good like my dad is and stuff, and she's just like him. So I think it's kind of like understood. And like that scene in the car at the end, it's like, hey, my dad actually said he wanted you to be his partner over me and stuff. It's like, yeah, like you see, it's good. Like it filled in enough for me. I was like, I get to know where we're at. We're good.
But yeah, like, same like they did for Spider-Man Homecoming and Black Panthers. Like, we don't need origin story movies anymore. We don't need any of that. It's done. It's over. Don't waste my time. Yeah.
What'd you think? What'd you score this?
I mean, like I said, it was exactly in lines with my expectations. You know, like I expected to have a fun time and then go home, and I did.
The guy got hit with the giant Pez. I was a fan
That
of
was pretty
I just
funny.
love Pez.
Yeah,
The salt thing.
the
was
trailer
really-
spoiled that for me.
Yeah,
but I
the
was
trailer
like,
spoiled
eh.
a lot of the funniest moments.
But I just still the Hello Kitty like over his face. It's
Yeah.
just like sliding underneath it. I like when she like shrank the
Shrank
bike.
the bike.
Yes,
Shrank the
that was a
motorcycle
great
out.
move.
Yeah. That whole car chase, it was really funny and inventive, and like it is a silly power. So like it's gonna be funny. So it's good that they lean into it.
Yeah, they did such a good job of the shrinking and enlarging stuff
Yeah.
in that film. Like very good, like props that. I don't think we mentioned all like the school sequence
Like
when he's
Oh,
stuck
when
as
he's
a
a tiny
kid,
kid.
and like they're just like
I love the
making-
teacher doesn't even go after him.
Yeah, the
But
teacher's
he thinks
like,
he
stop,
thinks he
wait.
does.
Yeah.
So Scott's running from nobody.
Yeah, from
It's
nobody.
like-
Yeah,
good.
it's
and
good.
it's a teacher who cares. Like,
Yeah, he doesn't care. And like pulling when they shrink the lab for the first time, you're like, okay, cool. But then he like pulls the suitcase thing out of the top of it. It's just like, oh, okay.
And then when they enlarge it one time, they forgot
Just
to put it up.
left it,
So
yeah,
it's
The whole
they had
movie though, I
fun.
was like, everything in that building would just be flying around everywhere.
Yeah, even with the house at the end where they like go on their
Yeah, yeah,
vacation
yeah.
and he takes the house out of the box, it's like there's got to be furniture. All those windows got to be broken. I
Yeah.
wonder if there's like a specific
like
state
a
something is in,
stasis field that happens when it's small, or I don't know.
It was a little Inception-y, you know, like them
Yeah, yeah,
driving
yeah.
around.
I
Like,
was just thinking
him
that.
like grabbing the building. He's sticking outside of a car, and you're like, that's the thing that this priceless, thing that they
Right.
built is in. And that's in the moment where you're like, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about it too much. Like, I guess I have that problem. When I see
Yeah.
films.
Oh, I was thinking about that too. I was like, is he like technically inside that building still? I was like, no, he's in the quantum realm. He's in somewhere else. But yeah.
The only thing I can think of is they did say when you're shrunk down, you're like way more powerful, like durable and stuff. But that was like, I thought the suit though. So maybe yeah, you
Yeah.
said stasis. Maybe something goes around those vehicles. Stuff when they're small, they're just way tougher or something. So
Yeah.
like the building's like super reinforced or
Well,
something.
I was thinking that has to be true because when they like enlarge a van under another car, like the pressure of that would destroy the van.
Yeah.
Unless it's strengthened by like additional exponential physics of the motion of getting larger too, like pushing on it. I think that's another one of those things you just kind of have to be like, sure, yeah, magic.
The only thing is that like
The close-up magic bit, the ongoing close-up magic joke was so funny to me. Like, they don't teach you that at online close-up magic academy or whatever. Oh man!
They walk in on Officer
Jimmy
Wu,
Woo,
trying to, like, he goes, "What is it?"
At the end, when Jimmy Woo was like, "Do you want to go to dinner?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Oh,
I felt
I
so
want
sad.
these two to be friends." I'm like, "I want them to be friends," kind of.
We'll see. I'm very curious, if like Scott's gonna like open Infinity War Part 2, or like when are we gonna bump back into Scott? And it's gonna be neat. I like that idea. I think when I came out of the sadness of Infinity War Part 1 and then started to think of like, oh, it's gonna be neat to have these other characters get much more screen time than they got Vision and these other characters that were like much more of a focus in Infinity War. And so, it's going to be interesting. Civil War is great. It's one of my favorite Marvel films. And I think Ant-Man is just the right amount of humor. I think humor is like a hard thing to do. Yeah. Not only in a movie like Ant-Man, which is much more humorous, but in something like Civil War where you have funny characters like Spider-Man and Ant-Man. But then how much do you use them and how do they fit into the whole thing?
I still think that Thor Ragnarok is the funniest Marvel movie. Spider-Man Homecoming is also pretty... like. Everything lands in that movie, whereas I don't think everything lands exactly in this one. Yeah, but the fun ones are fun. I like them.
I'm sadly going to give this a C+. That was kind of whatever.
Oh, we're doing letter grades. Oh.
Yeah. I don't know.
like movie style.
7, 8 also.
Sure, yeah. Geez. I mean, like, for me, B+, which is exactly what I thought. Like, that's the weird thing is, like, this movie should be a B+, and it hit that, so it's an A+ because it achieved its, but like it's a B.
No, I don't. That's ridiculous.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
It's
Yeah.
It's like that's what this is. That's what this movie is.
You're paying money for entertainment. As long as you're happy, everybody wins.
Yeah. People get too upset about these kind of things.
You give it a C+. I was teetering between C+ and B-. I'll go with B- because I think I did have such a fun time with it. And I understood what its purpose was, and I think it fulfilled its purpose. I wasn't trying to be anything more than that, and it really, really nailed the kind of like the lightheartedness I was looking for again in Marvel films after just like such a heavy film for the last one. I was just like, I do need a little bit of this, and it's nice. Like we can't make Ant-Man Wasp like this super serious heavy film right after.
Right.
I don't think it would work in that. It wouldn't work at all like that. So I think it did a good job. I just think like the core plot line of like everything felt like between a heist and like crime drama. Like it felt like something that could have been like a TV episode worth of plot. Like I mean, not to knock. There's really good TV stuff out there, but this didn't have to necessarily be a movie. Right. And
I mean, Marvel movies aren't. They're just everybody always says it, but like they're just kind of like continuous story
with more money.
Way more money.
Well, I understand the personal like relationship stakes in the film. The grand stakes weren't like as high as other ones like that, so there wasn't as much moments of tension. I think you were alluding to that earlier. It was like you knew things were gonna be okay.
Right. Like never at any time in this movie was I ever worried for anyone.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say that bothered me about this movie actually the most.
Here we go.
Well, it's the classic like thing. It's like Meet the Fockers syndrome, where it's like, or Meet the Parents syndrome, where it's like, again, anyone stopping and just talking like a person to someone for 5 minutes would solve everything.
Yeah,
like everything.
Three's Company is kind of what it felt like.
Oh,
it felt like an episode of Mr. Bean.
I didn't understand what you meant by that, but like, no, everything with Ghost, like, and Dr. Foster, like, if they just took Ava aside and said, yo, we're gonna get our mom/wife back, and then we will cure you. Stop getting in our way. We could have resolved this days ago if you weren't such an idiot. Like, if anyone had done that, it would have been, it's false drama. Yeah. But anyway.
But fun false drama.
Sure, I mean, again, it didn't make me mad.
Captain Marvel is going to be maybe a little fun because of the time period, but definitely more drama incoming there.
How many
and a lot of heavy lore with
will be in Captain Marvel?
We're not making bets during spoiler modes.
I think there'll be one.
And then, of course, a lot of drama coming with Infinity War Part 2.
What if they play Avengers 4 for the laughs? What if it's just a lighthearted romp?
What if like Scott Lang keeps trying them?
Yeah, he keeps
like
trying
they're
to
just in a room all crying, and they're just like, please stop. Like even
like,
Cap
hey.
is just weeping. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I love Bucky so much.
My best friend.
I hope you all saw Infinity War 2. Maybe we should have mentioned spoilers for that.
Infinity War 2?
These
Infinity
are all
War as
also,
well.
Yeah. It's
Before
all
we had this
fair game in
conversation,
here.
because Bucky died. Anyway,
He didn't die. He got vaporized.
He got dusted.
It's fine.
is it? Am I okay?
He got nosed. He got nosed.
I know I am way too much of a nitpick, man. I don't know why. I wish I wasn't. Like, I wish I could really just
Me
relax
too.
about a lot of these things. But I'm like walking out of the theater and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. All of their little dust trails just fell in a perfect little, like, lava lamp, at the end there, like Janet and Hope and Pym,
Yeah.
all just, so basically what happened is they were all like, huh, I feel weird. And then all just kind of stood there and stared at each other. Like they didn't, one try to grab the other or some, like if you looked at the way they all vanished at the end, like Spider-Man had a chance to lie down, it was actually
Yeah.
hurt enough. Like,
Well,
I can't stand anymore.
I mean,
It's
I
so
take-
stupid
I take
because you
umbrage-
need the
hang
effect
on,
of knowing
hang
all
on,
three of
hang
them are
on.
gone. But I'm
I take umbrage with this because people in Infinity War get variable amounts of time to disappear based on how important their character storyline is.
They totally do.
So like Bucky
Which
just
is also
disappears
nitpicky, and I will
kind
give you
of,
that.
and then Spider-Man gets like a minute and a half because it's sadder. Like that's not an argument. It's dumb in Infinity War, and I love it, but like it's stupid. So like yeah, it's just not windy that day.
When we
Jones.
Yeah.
On the roof of San Francisco or wherever the hell they are, where it would definitely be very windy.
When we start getting that nitpicky, it's time to wrap it up.
time
This
to
is Ben, Ian Hank, Michael Damiani, and I'm Brandon Jones. This is Spoiler Mode, which we produce at Easy Allies. If you're watching this, that means you are a $1 or above patron at Easy Allies. Thank you so much for the support. We will be doing more spoiler modes, of course, in the immediate future. I believe Ben Moore and I are scheduled to sit down to talk about Octopath Traveler. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I try not to call it Bravely Default 3 every time I think about it. It's like, no, that is the name of that
Project
video game.
Bravely Default
I have no
Traveler.
idea how long that game is going to be, but when we are done, we will sit down and we will chat about that, and we'll have more spoiler modes and, of course, more from Easy Allies to come in the future. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Hey, what'd I miss? We were just tiny!
It takes two to make a